Hello, everyone. Welcome to Happy Hump Day. Great to have you on board. Let's take a look and see what's going on, shall we, in terms of news events today. What a difference a day makes, by the way. We'll have a little bit of a look around the traps shortly and see what we can discover. But before we do, we will see that the Kiwi news this morning of the official cash rate, which remains stable at 1.75%. I've actually read the policy statement, or most of it anyway. It's such a colourful thing, the RBNZ policy statement. And to be fair, it's a little onerous. But that said, I got the impression from reading what I did read that it wasn't such a hawkish statement, yet the Kiwis gone apeshit as a result. I've obviously missed something. Maybe there was something at a press conference, but from what I could determine from the statement, there was nothing bullish or hawkish about it. Just pretty dovish, to be fair. But there you go. Fundamentals can sometimes be funny things. And as I say, the Kiwi has gone gangbusters since that was announced. What have we got coming up? Well, in about 2 hours from now, we've got the pound CPI figures coming out. That should be of interest, of course. But as Ash was saying yesterday, it's difficult to imagine that unless there's a big disparate figure here or a big miss on the forecast, previous 2.1. If this went down to say 1.6 or 1.7, there'd have to be a reaction. And
hey, buddy, I'm with you. We haven't got your screen.
Oh, shot, Grattan. There you go.
Oh, I'm all right, mate. Not too bad. It was a bit manic this morning.
Yes, well, mornings are like that, aren't they?
They can be, yeah.
And so are afternoons and evenings. And I've just lost everything. Can you still see?
I can hear you, but no, got no visual.
That's I've got two blank screens, not three. I've got one screen that works, but I've got two black screens. Oh, hang on.
There we go.
Are we back?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I
What
was
are
just
we at?
saying that the cash rate out of Kiwi land this morning remained stable as we expected, but the Kiwi did not skyrocket. In fact, it went absolutely apeshit, and I
Oh, did
can't
it?
work out why. Yeah,
Have you read the report?
I read the statement as best I can read the Kiwi statement. It's pretty much a colourful piece of or document, if you like, that paints pictures, and which is normally a good thing for me. I like imagery, but
Yeah.
the RBNZ statement is sometimes just a little bit, I don't know, out there. I'll put it that way. But from what I read, I saw absolutely no reason to think that the Kiwi would appreciate by whatever it did. I haven't measured how far it went, but it must be 60, 70 pips very, very rapidly. And I don't know, further investigation into that one, I suspect, or I'm thinking big retracement. So I
Let
don't
me
see
see if
anything.
I can find anything.
Yeah, see if you can find something there, but I can't. Not off the top of my head anyway, but clearly I'm wrong because the market reacted. And as I said, pound CPI, so consumer price index, purchasing price index, and retail price index all coming out at the same time in about an hour and 55 minutes. And as I said, if there's unless there's a disparate figure here, a big miss, then probably we're not going to see too much movement. But that's again subject to what the market thinks, not what I think. And often those two things are different. And later in the day, more CPI figures coming out month on month this time for the US dollar. And again, disparity here or a miss either side could make for a bit of movement in both the pound and the US dollar this day. All right, so let's take a look at some. Actually, let's have a look at what the market thinks at the moment before we go there. Well, not so much at the moment, but in the last 24 hours and slash since the market pretty much opened this morning. Euro retracing on a pretty good breakout yesterday. pound slowing down. Dollar, yen's very weak, still very weak. But there's that Kiwi, in fact, 100 odd pips today. So, yeah, big move on that as a result of whatever that, maybe the press conference did it, because I didn't see anything in the statement. But there's probably something that I've missed, as I said. Aussie chugging along very well. I think the Kiwis probably dragged that with it just a little bit. Uh, um, so yeah, weak yen. Maybe the euro's retracing. We're seeing that. Are we seeing strongest currency Kiwi? No doubt about that. And I think there's still probably a little bit of pressure on the dollar, but the euro, maybe that's come off a bit. There's a reason for that, no doubt. Maybe it's just a retracement. We'll see. All right, looking at the charts, we'll start with the Aussie, and it was tough to get into this long, but I note some of the ATW team did, and now has been triggered, or the highs, the break of the highs. I think there's been a trade triggered as well. For mine, great place to just observe at the moment, with price having tested the weekly pivot already, now pulling back off it, as you can see on the daily chart. I'll come back and do further analysis of these crosses a little bit later, but I just wanted to point out where we're at. Cable, let me have a look at that daily chart. Yeah, look, we spoke about this yesterday. I thought this might be a nice little place for a bounce, and how right we were, I suppose. If you managed to trade that, well done. I haven't, but exactly the same occurred where we've hit a pivot and just finding a resistance level there, as you would expect. It'll be interesting to see if price can poke through that or otherwise. I do have this situation where we've come above this trend line, and this is what we were waiting for in a smaller time frame yesterday. We'll have a look at that and see if there's something to trade after the market opens. Euro dollar, there's that pullback that we're seeing now, having hit that trend line, but the daily chart is very clear, and this is precisely what we were looking for. Well, actually, not precisely what we were looking for, but it's what was delivered. Fortunately, I did get into this this break, and the entry is just about there. I'll show you that one a little bit later as well. That turned out to be a nice trade. We've hit that resistance level, as I say. I'd love to see a pullback now and give me something on a smaller time frame to go. Well, I think long still. I still think there's more to be had here. Weekly pivot and monthly pivot are obvious targets. Aussie yen. Look, this one surprised me a little bit. I was expecting price to get to this level, but it absolutely smashed through that. As I said, the Aussie rallying with the Kiwi for whatever reason. I guess they're kind of pals, but the Kiwi smashed the Aussie today as well. So there was a little bit of drag effect. What do we do with this one? I need to wait on this, that's for sure. Some sort of pullback here, and not too keen to trade it, to be fair. Pound yen smashed through the top of our descending channel and the range. Again, very tough to jump into this now. I'll be looking for some pullback. That's the 4-hour chart. The daily chart is just as significant. Of course, we are at a resistance level as I speak. So maybe there's a little bit of pullback on the cards, but not that interested in that one either. Same. Everything's pretty much as you would expect when those little strong reversals, strong retracements at this point anyway, maybe turn into reversals. This one's still interesting. That's euro pound, and the market very indecisive on that yet. A couple more I'll do, Ash, and then we'll have a look at what you're up to, mate. Perhaps a nice little double bottom here, sitting on euro CAD. I'll be probably looking at cross-referencing this one. I'm interested to see that we smashed through the weekly pivot, back through the weekly pivot, and now back to the takeoff, if you like. I think this has got outside influences other than what's happening with the euro, to be fair, and it may be centered around oil. We'll have a good look at oil a little bit later as well. I'll just check that chart. Yeah, it rallied pretty well yesterday. Okay, Euro CAD we have now dealt with. Euro Aussie. I placed an order on Euro Aussie this morning, and it was long above this bar here. Hasn't been triggered. I think there's probably every reason to think that that is no longer valid. And if we do find another entry, then we shall do so. My thought process was a little backup on this big bullish bar that broke the trade line, and also smashed through the weekly pivot of last week, this horizontal level, and then pulled back to the weekly pivot, almost retesting the backside of that trend line that was broken. Well, I think we've got that now. We've got that back test. So I'm still watching this one for a bounce long, and maybe this is the one I'm looking for today, Euro Aussie long. We shall see as I drill down into the time frames. 2 to go, Aussie CAD. Not that interested until I find out what is going on with the CAD. Dollar yen. Dollar yen, as you can see, is, I don't know why I've got this 200 EMA on here. Did we put that on yesterday? I think we did, to get a comparative for some reason. This is at a confluence area for mine, where the monthly pivot of last month, okay, throw in the 200 EMA. It is 200 EMA? Yes, if you like, and the top of this channel. This might be a good place to look for a short-term short. So I'll be looking at that one later on as well, if we can manage to hit there. So technically, Ash, there's some nice levels coming up, and we're already at some nice levels on a couple of them. Maybe there's something we can look at the top of the hour and see if we can trade something.
Yeah, I just reading the the RBNZ statement, and I agree with you. I don't see too much that would suggest a huge swing to the upside, which I'm going to quickly look at just because it is the most recent news of the day. No, I want to just check. Yeah, see what you mean. I was gonna wonder whether it was a dollar story, but looking at it, the Kiwi smashed it with everything, didn't it?
Yep, sure did.
My goodness me.
I haven't got a chart. Have you got a chart? We obviously have. You look at one.
Yeah, let's bring the charts up here. And then we'll have a look at the FTSE. I mean, interestingly, they all basically say the same thing. All these. You got my chart?
Yep.
Okay, so this is what happened yesterday. So that was at 1 in the morning, my time. What time was the statement?
Let me see. It was midnight your time, actually. No, 1 a.m. is right.
I got it here.
And the press conference was at 2.
The press conference was at 2. So actually, the cash rate was the was the kicker. Unless there was no expectation of lower. That's odd, isn't it? I mean, the rhetoric is it's not necessarily positive, but it's fairly. I mean, if you had to say, out of the two, which it was, it would probably be slightly more upbeat than not.
I think if you went back to the previous statement, which I didn't do, and I didn't read the previous statement, I think I've got a sneaking suspicion the previous statement was hinting at a rate cut.
Right. Okay.
This time, well, so that may be the reason.
Yeah, that would certainly help boost this up. But I think what is interesting about this is that it doesn't suggest a real takeoff. Now let's just bring this onto a longer term time frame and see what that's suggesting for us, and then we'll have a look at the FTSE. Right, the dailies. There's obviously a level there, and maybe as much. Well, I mean, this is against the dollar, and it'd be interesting to know whether it was on an area of support against a lot of these others. But maybe because it was on an area of support there was no reason to sell it off. So everything just got triggered in to the upside. It's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult to know what actually caused this.
Yeah, I had a shock when I read the statement. Well, the first thing you notice, of course, is that the rate stayed the same, and then you dig deeper, as I did, and couldn't find a dash thing to suggest that that should have rallied to that extent.
I suppose
If at all.
That's the pound. Oh no, sorry, that's the Noki.
Although, as I say, perhaps.
I mean, that was on resistance as well, I suppose.
On the expectation of the previous announcement.
Interesting head and shoulders pattern that was forming on the Aussie, sorry, on the Kiwi against the pound, and that's has now created that right shoulder against the CAD. It was on an area of support. It looks like it was an area of support against all these, and maybe the lack of negativity actually just triggered in a load of stops on this. It's possible. This is. I think what's quite key about this is that it looks now that it's driven itself all the way back up to resistance, and the way that I'd want to play this from here on in is to look for signs and signals of reversal, because there's nothing hugely positive about this, but nothing hugely negative. So maybe without a specific catalyst, this is what is driving the Kiwi back and forth. But I wonder whether we're just going to start hitting a range with the Kiwi.
Certainly, I'd be prepared to play it as a top today.
Yeah, I think that looks pretty good, doesn't it? This may well be a tradable scenario. Let's just have a look at this on a shorter term time frame. Huge overextension. It would have to be a bit of a punt to a degree. I don't know how you. There is a setup on the euro. I don't know how you scramble through this. To be honest, mate, you got no kind of pivot going on, but
yeah, look, it's just trust that as a top and look for a lower high. That's all I'll be doing.
Yeah. I think that's a fair point, and a fair way to play it. The FTSE, also a pretty interesting market in many respects, because it is just grinding its way into positivity. So we had a dip, and what I find quite telling with the FTSE is that really what's been going on for quite some time is that we've been coming down, bouncing, getting to a level, bouncing, getting down here. There's a little bit of sideways price action here, but ultimately it bounces up, bounces down. The swings were quite large, with this for quite some time. So to have a bit of a pause in the market's direction of either upside or downside, I don't think is that surprising and that shocking. I would like to get into this short still. The setup isn't there, but there is a price point. So it just depends on whether we kind of go with a price point or we go with a setup. Now, the first time round, I went with a price point, and I think that's okay when it kind of like gets to a price that on its first time of asking, because it's much more likely to resist it. But now there is the possibility that this could actually continue and break forward. There's still resistance points much higher. But just reading from the RBNZ statement, which is the key aspect for me at the minute, is that pretty much every global bank has all intimated that the global economy is starting to weaken. And the RBNZ included, and they're getting affected by global economics. So going long on something like the FTSE would not be a preference for me. But what could happen is that we could actually burst up to another level and then start coming back. The chart doesn't have to be so clean that it gets to a level and just rejects it straight away. It can have an attempt to get higher. So I'm not really that keen on jumping in too early. And now I think we do have a fairly, it's a little bit off, but we have a fairly good channel here. I only say it's a little bit off because we haven't managed to get up to this point, but we do have a bit of a channel here. So if it starts to break to the downside, then I'm in. The good thing about it is that the downside opportunities before were around this area, but now they're starting to get that little bit higher. So a much better price to get in short at, and only really 20 pips away from where we are now. So there's no reason to jump in to the downside too early. I'd like to see this gap close, which will bring us down to this trend line, and then see what's going to happen from there on in. I'm just going to bring up something on another chart. Yeah, that looks like a pretty good play to me.
Mm-hmm.
Decent. You know, this is a difficult trend to play. There's no doubt about it. You know, you'd probably look for, if you're looking for the first higher low, it's that point there, and the market has actually rallied pretty well, almost 90 pips. So not a bad price to get in. The reason that I wasn't keen on getting in when I saw the first higher low is that the issue is that it's kind of in no man's land. You know, I didn't see where the bounce was, and I couldn't ascertain why we were bouncing at that particular level. And I'd much prefer to wait for the market to drag that a little bit lower before looking to get into this. So if we bring in the hourly again, the bounce point, yes, it was on a weekly pivot eventually, but this is the first higher low, and as I say, there was no daily pivot, there was no weekly pivot. When it came back again and tested that the weekly pivot, then yeah, fine, I could accept that. Certainly accept that one as a possible bounce point, but yeah, especially with the trend line, there was some confluence there. But I still think a bit of a difficult play. I probably would have only tried to get that first out, maybe made about 50 pips out of it on to the upside. I considered it. There's no two ways about it. I'd considered it, but because of my overall view of this, that we dip down to you know, significantly lower levels than where we are before the trend is to continue. As I say, we haven't tested this breakout. We haven't tested this breakout properly. We haven't tested a lower trend line. You know, there's lines all over this which suggest that it needs to come back. We haven't started to formulate a inverted head and shoulders, which is what I see kind of over here. Oops. My preference, you know, this is my preferable pattern here. Looking at the inverted head and shoulders and looking along the trend line. So that's the point that I'd like to get to, and as time goes on, it's looking more and more likely that it reaches this lower level if the shoulder is to be respected. You know, if we are going to get that right shoulder. So I am looking for a dip, and it could be a dip from around about 70-80, so 20 pips from where we are now. So any UK 100 traders are looking at 71.40 to dip back down to this point, which is about 100 pips, possibly then going through there to give us 200 pips. So I'm looking for shorts, but got to wait it out. Now, it wasn't my personal knowledge, but Julian on Monday suggested that the FTSE tends to be pretty good for the first 3 days of this particular week, and then on Thursday it starts to ease to the downside. So we could be looking maybe maybe today or maybe later in the day for a true dip down. But let's just go back to Forex Factory and see what could what could drive it. CPI. Now this could be a driver. Want to see that CPI data. I certainly won't be jumping in before that particular time. So got to wait till at least 9:30. If the market holds up after that particular statement, then we're looking at potentially looking at the US session at CPI. This looks to me like a decent potential catalyst for the Kiwi to start moving back to the downside. So if we see that RBNZ government or speaking and what he says has a negative slant on the euphoria that we've seen in the charts, this could actually start to drag that Kiwi right back down again. So I would suggest that we may well hold on until that particular time, and then we can start looking for downside. Looking at tomorrow just to see if there's any possible drivers. Retail sales, PPI, and core retail sales from probably won't have much effect, but it's possible. And then finally, Friday, we would see. Come on. Well, let's see if that includes Thursday, Friday. On Friday, interesting out of Australia. Nothing else that would drive the FTSE on Friday. So I'd say today is probably the most likely, rather than Friday. Now, I just want to see if there was anything that might get us there next week instead, because it might be that we're looking for that. I'm going to be fairly supple with it and not worry too much if there's nothing that comes in. Average earnings. So we're starting to stack up with the UK data after this point. So just need a reason and some sort of technical pattern, I guess. I mean, there's not a whole bunch next week, so it looks like it probably would be more likely to be possibly CPI that might do something that could change the picture on the FTSE. There's also another level on the FTSE, which when we look at the 4-hour chart, we probably see a little bit more clearly. Which I know I'm being a little bit creative here, but this also does actually create something of a head and shoulders pattern. You know, it's kind of slanted.
We got trade effectively without being creative. I don't think I can.
I don't know. I don't think you can. I agree with you actually, and you know, I think that the point that you're making is that you have to be flexible. You know, when it comes down to things, you have to be flexible, because what you would have as a strategy can't be hard and fast. It can be a guide, I guess, right? I mean, that's what you're looking for a strategy to be, a guide to give you confidence that what you're seeing is what you're seeing. For example, a weekly pivot step down strategy that we see with the daily wave rider would be something that you would absolutely want to see, but it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that maybe a slightly nuanced bounce off that particular point doesn't get you in. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
You must adapt to what the market is prepared to give you. I mean, you can draw the prettiest picture on the planet, and it may be distorted in some way, but still meaningful along those same lines. So yes, you have
absolutely
to be able to say, well, okay, that's. I hesitate to say the words close enough, but it's probably apt, and it's probably the only description I can give you at this time.
Yeah, this is the thing. I mean, you know, when I look at this, I kind of see a section here. I can't draw it an angle, but I kind of see a section here which could be like a left shoulder, could be like a kind of head, and could be like a right shoulder. The problem with it is that it's getting a bit close to more to look more like a double top than anything else. So
of course, along those same lines, you know, we're brilliant. Our eyes are and our mind, when they go together, are absolutely brilliant, and they can make just about anything look important to us.
Yes.
If we're prepared to go that direction. So you know, imagination, creativity, objectivity. You know, it's a bit of a mix, isn't it? At the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And ultimately, what I'm going to wait for is for this level to be broken down. You know, because that's you know that's fairly that's a fairly absolute line for me.
I think that's a great addition to that. As long as the premise is not broken, yes.
Yep. Yeah, and the great thing about this is that we got the daily pivot in the way. So I'll look for two things. I will look for a breakdown of this level, and this level then moving from this point here, maybe back up again, and then taking a trade. Market's just opened up, so taking a trade somewhere, you know, in this area, or maybe even on the daily pivot, or I will look for a break right down to the weekly pivot, and then looking for the bounce back up to the daily pivot, and then looking for the trade to the downside.
There's plan A for the day.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the plan is that you enter somewhere around about the as I say, anybody trading the UK 100, you're looking at around about 71.38, 71.40, something like that. I'll be looking for around about 71.80, sorry, 70.80 on the futures. So that's the plan for the day. Yeah, we're just looking for a break and a back test of this particular level, but I'd need to see the break first. And the importance of a break, and a significant break, is that if we see the market falling down here and we're saying, right, we're just going to wait for a break and a back test, and then all of a sudden we get in here because we believe the break is going to happen, then all of a sudden it bounces again, gives us another nice little run to the upside, and we're in a trade that we really don't want to be caught in, then it really does dictate that waiting for specifics are really important. The only addition to that, or the only subtlety or flexibility you can have on that, is if you're willing to give back a few pips, then the break will be enough for a lot of people. If you see a break of the trend line, then you just get in. That's not necessarily an awful way to play it. It wouldn't be the better price, but it's not an awful way to play it. But the key is that you've got to see a break. Backtest just gives you a better price. The break really does give you a higher probability that the move to the upside has paused at minimum. So to take a downside trade wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But what you have to recognize is, one, it could come back again and give you a better price if you waited, or two, if it bounces back up again, it could get you right back where you started without taking any profit. So it's not really too much point. We're trying to get the highest level possible, and to me, this area here is the highest level possible if it creates some sort of lower high round here. So that's the plan for the day, mate. That's what I'm looking for.
Makes sense to me, mate. See if I can come up with a couple of plans of the day. Righto, chart time. Let's go back and have a look at yesterday. Interesting that you were talking about the daily pivot then, and I have a golden rule, absolute golden rule that I do not break, and it is I won't trade into an untested daily pivot. I was on the I guess bold side of the equation yesterday when I took this trade long on the euro, well after our show had closed, of course, but I think I did say what I was looking for. I considered that to be a test of the daily pivot, and that's the only thing that got me into this trade, because otherwise I just don't do it. I thought there was a good indicator here in that we went to the daily pivot, came off the daily pivot, but failed really to take this low out with any substance. We got below it, but then we bounced straight back, and I thought this was a fairly bullish sign that we were going to have another crack at the daily pivot and even beyond. When I got the retracement that I needed, that was the obvious place to enter the market. As dangerous as it was, still trading into a daily pivot that hadn't been breached, but I was pretty confident because of the setup that I had. It was pretty much out of my textbook. I had a support trend line going through there. I had a resistance trend line going through there. And this was just a pretty clear false break of that line, to be fair. We broke below it, consolidate below it, back above it, retested it. That's always going to be an automatic entry for me. The two issues, really. And one of them was we didn't have a clear reversal pattern here, although you could call that on a 30-minute chart a little tweezer bottom. But really what I'm looking for after that is a higher low. Well, we got actually two higher lows. And then we got this, what can only be described as a let's take the stops out, guys, move. And then away she went. So next, that was yesterday. Well, let's have a look at today. Do you see something on this chart that looks familiar? I do. So if we take yesterday's price action, we began down here somewhere had a bit of a drift to the high side, retraced, drift to the high side, hit resistance, and then fell away. Today, we've gone a little bit of a drift to the high side, a little bit of a drift to the high side, found resistance, and fell away. I think the ideal scenario here would be if we got a daily pivot test and then started to get some sort of price action telling me we're off long again. At the moment, you've got to be excused for thinking that the market is okay. We're going back to where we were yesterday. We're going down here. We're going short again. This was just a retracement, and that, of course, could be the case. My contention, however, is that whilst ever we're in this area, we're actually in a buy zone. We're in a sell zone. So I'm looking for another buy entry here, and daily pivot, perfect. If we get a test there, I'll be looking for something. I need a confluence, of course. I just can't jump into the market for no reason. So I'm looking for something through here. Forget that line there. That's on a 4-hour chart. I'm actually on the 30-minute chart here at the moment. So let's dispense of that. So these are the two lines that we've got in play. As always, if I'm going long, here's where I want to go long from, not up here. So I want some interaction off this trade line and at that level. That's probably the only thing that will get me back in here. So I do need price down here. I do need a break of that level and then a re-entry above this area, retest the level, and then go long. So that's going to be the plan for Euro US dollar. Do I see an alternative? Look, I don't want to trade it short. I think short's just not on my books today. The one thing I would add to this is oftentimes when you get a reversal and you get a quick reversal, as we got yesterday, well, we got a retracement yesterday. Let's put that in perspective. We're not in reversal mode yet, but I think we can be with today. And if we do get a confirmation of this, then I don't know that we will get a daily pivot test because every man and his dog will be looking for that. So we may miss that opportunity, and that's going to be a bugbear. I'm not sure how I'm going to enter the market any other way, to be fair, unless time takes care of it and we get a series of, I don't know, higher lows here very, very quickly, I suppose, and get another trend line or trade. Or we simply have a false break of this one up here before going to the daily pivot. Talking about time, of course. Time will take precedence there because we've got a big gap between the trend line. Oh, we don't have one yet, do we? Okay, it's a trend line that doesn't exist. So it may even be that this stops here and we get the trend line here and we don't reach the daily pivot. I'm fine with that as well. It's not ideal. Ideal is to test the daily pivot, then get back above and go long. But I'm willing to say that if this does reverse from the bear trend that we've been in, then the daily pivot may not be tested today. So I'm all over that as well. If it does pardon me, pan out that way. So that's the euro plan on the euro. Not thinking short at all. What would change my mind? Yeah, nothing. Not interested in a short today.
So you're only looking for long on the euro?
Yep. If I was interested in a short, then that time's gone. The place to go short the euro today is up here, not down here. So
it's a lot of trouble, isn't it? The euro.
It's what? Sorry.
It's in a lot of trouble.
In terms of under pressure.
Yeah, just I guess fundamentally, with Italy kind of going into technical recession, with Germany's resale sales slowing down, and it looks like their economy is shrinking as well. It just looks it appears that Draghi maybe in action is it seems like the other banks have done something. Even the UK with Brexit has done something. Even Mark Carney has done something. He raised interest rates by 0.25%, and with the US also tightening and the other banks around the world fairly stable, then you wonder. I mean, the euro really is it's the laggard. I mean, if Brexit wasn't happening, I wouldn't be surprised if the euro was the weakest.
Well, maybe, but taking really not a lot of that into account, and that's an impossible statement to make, I know. But I'm saying if I ignore that, what I can see is this level that I've spoken about many times, that just could not be broken for such a long time, until it, of course, was, and then it went strongly, 2 phases, and then now we're back. We're back at that exact level. If we get through it, then I'm I'm back in the oh dear brigade. But whilst ever we're above it, and we're bang on it right now, to be fair, whilst ever we're there, I've still got to be thinking that we're pounding the top side of that level, and we can't break through it. Just as we couldn't here, and without a decent retracement, and then another attack on it, fundamentals are a funny thing. They can change quickly, as can anything. But I'm still, until this level goes, I'm still bullish. Well, sorry, I'm hawkish. I wouldn't say I'm bullish. And I'm waiting for every opportunity to trade off the bottom, and that's exactly what we did yesterday, primarily. So until I'm absolutely 100%, what's that W word? Wrong.
Yeah.
I choose to remain right, or buoyant. I'll put it that way. I choose to remain buoyant. And
well, of course, you're looking for shorter time frames anyway, aren't you? So
yes, absolutely. I'm not in the market for a long time generally, but if this does reverse now, and we do take out this level, I'll be leaving something on the table this time, because this will be a confirmation of a reversal for mine if we break here. So there's plenty of space up here for profit, and even to this level. So I won't be closing everything at the weekly pivot, for instance, or even the monthly pivot. I'll still be leaving something open. So if this does go, it'll be phase 2, and it'll be fairly substantial, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong, then I shouldn't be bothered. It should just continue to go south, and that's fine, I guess.
Yeah.
It takes away opportunity, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Now, cable. Let's go the other side of the Brexit coin, shall we? And same yesterday. And look, to be absolutely fair, this is just a at this point in time, correction. Well, not even a correction. It's people taking profit. Let me put it that way, because these guys have been making chugs of money as this goes down and down and down. And similar to when it was going up, there's been very little retracement, if any. One big pullback bar there, and one indecisive pullback bar there. It's tough to be thinking that we can go up and down, straight back down, without any possible way on from my trading strategy point of view to get into the market. Maybe this candle provides that. This is the daily candle, of course. Maybe if I wake up tomorrow and I see that, I'm thinking, well, you got to play a short here, maybe. But that candle's a long way from finished for mine. I don't want to be going long here right now, but I do note we've pulled off the monthly pivot. It'll give me an opportunity to go long if it does set up on a smaller time frame. So let's have a look at the 30-minute. Well, let's get the bias first. Get the bias first, and then we'll have a look at where we're going to trade it. So the bias, we spoke about this yesterday, this beautiful level, great level from which to trade, and it was confirmed over here. And of course, we went through that level, through the daily pivot. Now we're straight up to the monthly pivot, where we now have a substantial support level. The worst part here was, for me, that we didn't, we've got back above this trade line or trend line, and we've now got a retest of it, but we didn't do it quickly enough for me to be able to say, okay, well, if momentum changes again, we're going straight to here. But I've still got that in the back of my mind, and perhaps on a daily chart where are we? No, it won't happen because we're already back above there. That's a bit of a son of a gun. All right, let me go back to the 4-hour situation. Ooh. I may have to trade that in 103 minutes and 51 seconds. I may have to place an order here long. It will depend a lot on how this candle looks and what size it is, what shape it is when it closes. Going back to what I said on the euro, if we are to reverse here, then the daily pivot may not even get a look in today. We may just go quickly, as I said, and this may be it. So, okay, I will place it long above here if that candle looks anything like that in 103 minutes and 19 seconds. So that is plan A. Now, can I trade it on a smaller time frame if necessary? Let me get rid of that line because that's just going to confuse the whole issue. Okay, so looking at this 30-minute chart, we've come off the bottom. We've got a series of higher lows. Maybe we're going to have another higher low here. Maybe. It's not there yet. Can we provide confluence? Yes, we can. Have we got something that suits me to trade? Not yet. So I'd like a little bit deeper, I've got to say. But if I go a little bit deeper, I probably don't have a line to trade or to provide the confluence. Maybe that one. That one looks a bit better, actually. So keeping my eye on this, a break here, find this level maybe, consolidate, get back above and retest. That will be my signal to go long. That's really all I've got in my mind here. Same as the euro, same as the Aussie, I guess, to a certain degree. Let's go there now. A whole lot of stuff going on with the Aussie yesterday, and we, in the later show, in the evening show, I flagged this one here. Very, very similar scenario to the euro in that we were trading at a resistance level. The euro, the daily pivot, the Aussie, the monthly pivot. The clear selection, of course, was for me to trade the euro, not the Aussie. And that turned out to be the right decision. Had I traded this, it probably would have just given me a break-even trade, actually. No, wouldn't have got a TP1 till here, so, and then back. No, it would have been a winner. But yeah, look, dangerous one for me, this one. Trading with a gap between entry and the monthly pivot is nothing to be sneezed at, and something I don't like to do. Daily pivot's worse, but yeah, not an easy one. Anyway, that's water under the bridge. Let's not talk any more about that. What about today? Don't like that. Okay, don't like that either. So I don't have a support trade line I can use at the moment. This one's done null and void. No man's land, up that creek without a paddle on Aussie at the moment. I think I said that earlier. I didn't want to trade it, and that's probably where I'm at. Let me just take a quick squeeze at the 4-hour chart. Look, pretty clear what I'm looking for, I suppose. We haven't hit the bottom of the range, but what we do have, we have a double bottom. We've got a bullish engulfing bar. I'm simply looking for a higher low here. Best case scenario for that higher low would be for price to come down to there, and then give me something like that, and we can look to trade anytime soon long there. That's what I'll be looking for. So if you really want to get in early, you could trade the bounce off there if you get the right candle. But I'd rather it clear the monthly pivot. So if you can see what I'm saying, we're bouncing off the weekly, we're going through the monthly down to the daily, finding support, come back and take out the monthly again and look to go long there. I think that's the play for me on the Aussie if it does happen. I'm probably not even talking today. That's probably a tomorrow thing. But if it looks like that, that's exactly where I'll be. You want me to take a breather, mate? Do you got anything at this stage?
No, there's there's nothing pending when it comes down to trading. I mean, as I say, I think for me, I've got to wait until the 9:30 CPI has been released. But we can certainly have a Brexit update if your stomach will allow.
Just before we do, and I try and avoid that. Let's have a look at the Kiwi and see if there's any chance of me to trade this back today. Look, what I'd really like to see is this candle pull back. What chart am I on? 4-hour chart. Plenty of time to do that. Let's go to the hourly. See what's there. Okay, that's already there. Yeah, look, I'm kind of 2/3 of the way to a trade here, mate.
Brilliant.
We've got 39 minutes on that. Let's go to the 30. It's going to look the same. I'd say at the top of the hour, if this candle closes anywhere near where it is right now, and we got a bullish bar to respond, I'll be in. So yeah, we'll keep our eye on the Kiwi. Let me measure that against the Aussie. It's the same sort of thing, but I don't have any confluence here to trade, unfortunately, where I do on the Kiwi. What is that level? Kind of monthly pivot area. There. Yeah, it's got a little bit of rough form. I wouldn't say it's a significant level, but it has acted as resistance for sure. A little bit of support there as well. I'll be looking at that very closely, mate. I think that's a distinct possibility on the 30-minute chart. But we need to close around about here somewhere. A little bit deep is fine. Maybe even the monthly pivot's fine. What would we have then? Yeah, that'd be cool. If we got a bear bar to here and then a bull bar back to the trade line or trend line, entry right there would be absolutely cool. Be very happy with that. So that may well be where I'm headed next. We'll keep our eye on it. Righto, the B word.
The B word, yeah, just a little update on the B word. There is a Brexiteer civil servant is basically saying Theresa May is now saying that it's going to be her deal or a long delay. Now there have actually been some developments overnight suggesting that Theresa May would probably resign in the summer. Now she wants to get this deal through, and she wants to make sure that if the deal doesn't go through, that she will see the good ship of Great Britain go through a no-deal scenario. So you know that is pretty negative in many respects. But interestingly, she's attempting to keep Boris Johnson away from the hot seat at number 10, and she wants to be able to choose the next leader, or certainly have a big say in the next leader. And the only way she can do that is if she doesn't get dethroned in the meantime. So
how much influence can she have on that?
I'm not sure. I mean, I read it and I thought it was a strange headline. But when we've had leadership, the baton changing in the past, I'm pretty sure Gordon Brown, Tony Blair to Gordon Brown, didn't have a leadership election, but it's possible that they did. But and I might be mistaken on that. But it was a given that that Gordon Brown was going to be taken over. And I'm pretty sure that's because Tony Blair was allowed to choose his successor. But I'm not 100% on that, and I will have to look into it if it becomes an actual, a significant thing that could be prevalent, because it was a story that was reported by not a bad source, but not every source. You know, it's one of the smaller kind of media outlets that reported this. And you sometimes question where they get their their stories from. You know, mainly because the amount of stories that I see, even on the main news feeds over here, you know, Channel 4 News is a highly respected news show. Even on things like that, some of the things they report, and I just think, is that really newsworthy? You know, so it doesn't seem to me to be that important. And not to suggest that people's pain and suffering and plights aren't key, but they may focus on somebody that, you know, got caught in a boating accident, rather than the fact that the world's butterflies and bees are actually are becoming extinct, which, you know, I think is a lot more important, and the kind of things that they should be really focusing on and driving home. You know, things that affect the masses.
Like pollution and
Exactly. You know what?
water and
Why?
things like that. Yes.
Yeah, and those things tend to get shoved right to the back of the news, rather than, you know, a chase that went down Aldringham High Street or something, and it's a police chase that went down Aldringham High Street. It's just, you know, it's affecting probably 0.1% of the population, which, you know, things to do with global warming are obviously affecting everyone. So I'm not sure why they're not driving that stuff home every single day. Because of that, I get a little bit skeptical about some of the things that they do talk about on the news. So the news feed that I got that particular story from may not be 100% reliable, and the reason I say that, it doesn't seem to be corroborated by any other news channel, certainly none of the majors. But this particular report is by the same people, actually. And it says that Eurosceptic MPs reacted with anger after a top civil servant was overheard in a Brussels bar saying that MPs face a choice between the PM's deal and a long Brexit delay. Now, that already suggests that is a very tenuous link. So it was overheard in a Brussels bar. Now, how do we know that the person that overheard it wasn't drunk and overheard wrong? So let's see if it has been corroborated. I doubt it has. Ollie Robbins, who is one of Theresa May's trusted advisors, so they're trying to give it some clout, and chief advisor on the EU, reportedly laid down the stark choice while chatting to colleagues in a hotel bar in Belgium. In the Belgian capital late on Monday night. ITV reported. Okay, well, there's maybe some corroboration there. This is a report by the Huffington Post. The issue is whether, this is quoting him, the issue is whether Brussels is clear on the terms of extension. In the end, they will probably just give us an extension, he is quoted in saying. Got to make them believe that the week beginning end of March extension is possible. But if they don't vote for the deal, then the extension is a long one. Now, that is not going to make the Eurosceptics in her party particularly happy, because that is sounding more and more like no Brexit at all. I mean, you know, when we think about the scenarios of this soft Brexit scenario that could potentially happen, the first one is to soften the deal completely, and as I said before, go to the Norway style deal, or the other one. That seems to be touted fairly regularly, but without any real support, is this second referendum. Now, this one is of greater fear in many respects, because at least the Norway deal gives the Eurosceptics a break of some sort. The going back to the people gives them a chance of some sort to try and win that vote again. But this gives them no chance. You know, if there's an extension, that's basically leaving it. It's a kicking the can down the road kind of scenario. And we know what happens when people kick the can down the road. The can never actually gets picked up and put in the bin. So, you know, this will be a huge worry for people. And it's possible that they are playing Russian roulette with the Eurosceptics to basically say, vote for the deal, or you've got a great chance that there won't be a deal whatsoever. Or it's possible that this is just a genuine projection of what could happen. So this is something from the Eurosceptics. They've basically seized on it, and they've said that officials advise, but ministers decide. So they are effectively going to be saying, you try and do that, then we're going to push hard against it. So it doesn't really give us any clarity on Brexit. But what this does start to show is that the cracks are going to start becoming wider and wider as we get closer to that March 29th deadline. You'd hope the deal would have been done by now, and
I certainly would have hoped that.
Now I've got two schools of thought on this. My first school of thought is that that in a game of chicken, the winner will be the one who survives but pulls out, end up doesn't pulling out ultimately. But in a true game of chicken, which this has become, you're going to get it as close to the metal as you possibly can, while still being safe. So while that March 29th deadline is 46 days away, I think it is now, maybe even 45. It still gives us 44 days before a deal really needs to be done, before it's all over. And I think business, the reason that the pound isn't tanking is that business probably believes ultimately that something will happen. A deal will be done, and all the rhetoric and talk about long extensions or a no-deal Brexit, both these scenarios, really, they may happen by accident. Not the extension, but the no deal Brexit may happen by accident. But I think that they might just be both sides just playing hardball as long as they possibly can, just to see who cracks first. Now, by all intents and purposes, it's looking like the UK government will have to crack first, because Theresa May has little support for her particular deal. But she is so belligerent. I mean, I've not experienced a politician who is quite so dogmatic and married to their own particular ideals, at the risk of putting her party breaking up the party ultimately. But nobody's
what's that bloke's name? Oh, Donald Trump.
Donald Trump, yes.
There's two of them going around at the moment, mate. He's one.
Do you know what though? The difference is that, but the difference with Donald Trump is that Donald Trump, as president, effectively sits in a slightly different stratosphere than his parties do, and also. Leader, I think if the vote went to the government in America, Donald Trump probably wouldn't be in. But I think the key factor is that Theresa May is not really getting too much pushback. She's, they've tried to make a leadership challenge, but it failed fairly significantly. Jacob Rees-Mogg did try and mount something that would dethrone Theresa May, but it did fail quite significantly.
There's been more than one, isn't there?
No, they can only make one in a specific time. Yeah,
no confidence that I can recall.
There has been votes against her deal, but not against her. Her own party can only challenge her once a year, I think it is. The Labour leadership can challenge her, but countless times. But her own party can only challenge her once for that leadership position. And because she's already won it, then she's pretty safe. And because of that, she really can play chicken with this particular deal. So I'm not saying that this really tells us anything, but while we go towards soft Brexit, hard Brexit, soft Brexit, today we are in soft Brexit mode. If that extension possibility comes into play, or even potentially no Brexit, because it's going to do is if Theresa May resigns in the summer, then whoever takes her place is going to be left with the job of delivering and negotiating the Brexit deal, and depending on who we get will depend on how that deal shapes up. If we end up getting somebody who is against Brexit, then we might actually end up with an extremely soft break from the European Union. Obviously, if we get Boris Johnson, all bets are off.
Right, fair enough. Well, to summarise, nothing's changed.
As always.
It's the same as yesterday, the same as last week, same as the month before. Here we go again.
Yeah, I mean, when I say a Brexit update, I think that word needs to be changed, doesn't it?
Up someone's date.
Yeah, or maybe just the word "up" shouldn't be in it. Maybe it's just a Brexit news. It's just Brexit news. Not even sure it's news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things. Right, fair enough. I'm going to cancel an order here. that I probably need to do. So I'll take the screen.
No, I'm just we're going to get to Christo, and Christo's just put a question: what happens to the pound in an extension scenario? So when you finish that, we'll get to that particular question. And Ben as well saying the Iron Lady, and it's interesting because when Theresa May first came to government, she really did have some echoes of Margaret Thatcher and the Iron Lady, but that seemed to fade. No, not long after that, but she's a completely different metal, I have to say. I'm not sure what the metal is. I mean, if it was Margaret Thatcher, I'd love to see Theresa May and Margaret Thatcher locking horns. Would be a fascinating encounter, and I would still put my money on Thatch. But Theresa May is certainly. She's no mean negotiator. I have to say the reason I put my money on Thatcher is that she wouldn't have even entertained some of the other suggestions. She would have gone, this is what's happening, and that's it. Take it or leave it. Boom. And there wouldn't be any, do you mind negotiating a little bit more? That'd be it for her. She'd be like, okay, fine, no deal. Boom.
All in line, you pricks. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah. Which I think actually probably would have been a much better strategy. But that's conjecture. But yeah, she's certainly a metal. We'll have to see if we can come up with that. She's not iron. What's slightly softer than iron, but still pretty tough? Steel?
Yes, mild steel. You could go with
steel, mild
steel.
or bamboo. Maybe bamboo. Is bamboo harder than iron?
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Stronger than iron. So maybe maybe Thatcher was the bamboo lady, and and we can rechristen Theresa May the Iron Lady.
All right, let's do that. The trade I'm going to cancel. Not taken in the show, of course. It was in the morning show, and I was looking to trade this cross, which was or still remains Euro Aussie, and I was looking for a long here above this bar. I'm actually going to change that, and if this looks like this tomorrow, if this looks exactly like this tomorrow, I'll move my entry, but only down to the top of this bar. So it's not going to move far at all. But I still think that's on. In fact, it's probably even better now. And let me explain that. So this bar's dominant, right? I've got this bar as the dominant bar on the chart. And it's almost the dominant bar on the chart. Maybe this one here. And if you take that into consideration as well. But that is a dominant bar without question, coming off a little hint of a double bottom. We've struggled to get to the monthly pivot, haven't done that. And since then, we've been in absolute consolidation, moving nowhere. Now there's a move to the downside, but it's only retesting this broken trend line, that horizontal level, and the pivots. So I'm prepared to say that if price were to find its way back in this area, it'll accelerate through here and find the monthly pivot. And if we get really lucky, we may even challenge this high level here, and woe betide that we get way back up here. I'm not thinking that, but I'm certainly thinking this area, and I'm certainly thinking this area in extension. So I will look to trade that tomorrow. The level's almost the same, I'd have to say. In fact, I may not even change the level. But for now, the one thing I don't want to happen is that we get a big rally here today to wipe out that today's candle, which, after all, to me is a reaction to the Kiwi news. As strangely as that may seem, you've got Euro Aussie here. The Aussie rallied with the Kiwi, and that's not unusual. Those pairs sometimes do go together, even where the news is not related to the second. So I don't expect this is the beginning of a short move. What I think it is just an emotive move, and it's come back to a support level. And I think I'm on track here, thinking there's a rally on Euro Aussie. But for now, I think it's got to go because I don't want to be taken into that on a wipeout, if you like, of that move. Then we get another retracement and I'm in trouble. So I don't want to be in negative territory on this. I just want to get it as it goes through, and away we go. So that's that one. We've got new 30-minute candles, of course. I'll quickly squiz around and see what we can find. I drew the Aussie thing there that I am looking for. It may not happen, of course, but that's best case scenario for me today. I'll look to trade long there, but the best long is to be had after we retrace off that high. So that's what I'll be looking for. Nothing there at the moment, I don't believe. The 30-minute chart has given me diddly squat. Well, that's not quite true. It hasn't given me diddly squat at all. It's given me a potential reversal bar on the retracement, but I don't want to go long here. Well, I don't think I want to go long here. Let me rephrase that. It's not impossible. No, I don't. No, I'm still looking for that deeper retracement, so no, nothing there for me. Cable's interesting. Couldn't find its way below that trend line / trade line. Same thing really at the end of the day, isn't it? And I don't want to go long here. Yes, I recognise that the daily pivot may not be tested, but I want a far cleaner entry than that, where I can find out that there's more reward available to me before I hit resistance. So no, nothing there. Euro dollar's exactly the same. Look, I'd be tempted to take that. That's a far better proposition for me than either of the other two. But I really don't have any confluence here, and that's what I'm looking for all the time. That's not what I wanted. That's what I wanted. Yeah, it's not too dusty. There's a 1-to-1 reward before you hit any resistance, so that's not too bad. Well, when I say any resistance, there is a level across here, of course. So that's not quite true. Today's resistance, what I'm talking about. I'm not going to go there, but it's not entirely out of the question. And if it does go, I'll be sad because I'm not back in the trade. I'll still wait. I'll just wait to see how we go. But if this becomes a low, that opens up things a whole lot more. So patience will be required. We need to see, I need to see price get down to here, maybe find that level, consolidate back above that level, then retest, then I can go. That's probably be the same level, but it's a far safer option to me. So nothing there. I haven't really had a look at Aussie yen because it's just a little bit too far gone for me. Let me come back here. Yeah, nothing there. It's kind of dangling in midair. I like the double top or the tweezer top. Yeah, looking for some decent selling to come in here, find the resistance, then pull back and give me a lower high and then short, but nothing there at the moment. Euro yen. No real reversal pattern here, so I'm not really looking for short off a lower high. Certainly not on that chart. The hourly, yeah, you could make a case for a bearish engulfing bar. So a lower high probably does get me interested on the hourly chart, but I'm not that keen. Euro pound. Yeah, it refuses to come back below this level, doesn't it? It just keeps hammering it, and refusing to break it.
Yeah.
That level there, no. This is probably the best opportunity from a candle scenario, but you know, if I'm to go short here, I've got to trade straight into that. Don't want to. No, nothing there. EuroCAD, can it come off that base? Yeah, look, probably can, but in absolute reality, I've just got a hint of a double bottom, and that's all. I don't have a higher low. Nothing I can trade there. Euro Aussie, I've been interested in, as you know. Let me see if I can pull this off on a 30-minute. What do I need to see? Not much really, except some confluence, and all I've got is consolidation and no lines to play with. Maybe I'll get one through here. No, I'm not even going to put it in. It's too flat. No, I can't find anything there. Aussie CAD, that's interesting. Okay, what can I line up here? Something through here. That would be okay. Yeah, not quite, eh? Had we come back below this level and then retested it, and that's why that looked interesting, because it looks to be a retest bar, I may well have found a short, but no. Is there a long? Too late to play it, but is there a long off the tweezer bottoms? So the tweezer bottom's really not a bottom of anything except a very, very brief retracement. So to call it a bottom is probably a little bit of a stretch. I do like the fact that we've got a base here. We've got a big bullish engulfing bar, albeit that news bar from today. But you can see that that price has continued on with the job. I think if I did get maybe a little bit more significant higher low here, it might interest me. Maybe if it found, I don't know, that level through there. Maybe if it found that level through there, I'd look to play it, but not keen on it right now. And finally, dollar yen. I may have something later, but again, nothing right now. So yeah, we've got work to do, mate, before I find a trade. Oh, Kiwi. We'll look at Kiwi, haven't I? We've got 13 minutes before the Kiwi might be a trade. Yeah, look, it's shaping up nicely. I'd really like to see this break back through this 68.28 level. Two reasons. The candle's very small as it is. I'd like to see it just break this resistance / support. It's both at the moment. Maybe close up here, engulf the bar, something like that. Then I would place an order short here, taking profit at monthly pivot, but leaving something open to, I don't think I'd take the daily pivot on, but I think I'd take that level on. So I'll be looking to trade short under here. Actually, let me just get rid of those. Let's do it with lines. Short under here. Take profit there. Leave the trade open and close it there. It all depends on this bar. Now, caveat. This can still happen on an hourly chart if this candle doesn't give me what I want. So, for instance, if it stays where it is, that's fine, because we can use the same ploy on an hourly chart. The one thing that needs to happen is the candle needs to close below the trend line. Okay, so I think that's a reasonable position to take if we do get that scenario. So first, and this bar, if it again closes above this line, maybe up here somewhere is even better, then I will look to trade it short. So that's Kiwi US dollar, looking to play the I suppose retracement on that emotive move, which I still can't fathom as to why it happened. We shall see. So there you go, mate. That's about where I'm at.
Okay, so really we're just waiting out until the Kiwi something unfolds. Yeah,
that's probably first cab off the rank. Again, guys, if you do see this setup, and I'm not talking to you, but if you don't see the setup, if you do see the setup and place the order, and 6 candles go by without being entered, cancel the order. That's enough for me. I don't stay in there any longer than that. The Aussie I like if you get that sort of price action. The euro. Yeah, this concerns me a bit. This may take off, and if it does, don't like it. I want this to come below here, then get a second chance. I want a second wind at this rather than the first. But yeah, look, there's a few opportunities about, mate.
Okay, great. Well, should we deal with Christo's question? What happens to the pound in an extension scenario?
Yeah, I can't see the questions. I can't see any people in the room even. So I've got no idea why. There's a control panel missing somewhere on mine.
There is. You know, I've got the same thing, but I just go to a YouTube on a different browser. Yeah. So, yeah, let's talk about the pound.
Yep. What's the question?
So the question is, what happens in an extension scenario? And I guess it means an overextension scenario.
Okay, given that we were overextended, or that we may become overextended.
I guess given that I mean, just may need to clarify a little bit, Christo. But do you mean if we become overextended, if we get some sort of Brexit announcement? Well, I guess that's
I'll deal with the question the way I deal with overextension, and I'll give you a prime example. If I can find one. Well, let's deal with this chart, shall we? The 4-hour chart on cable. Now, the way I measure overextension is not by the size of the bar, but the size of the gap between the daily pivot and the weekly pivot. And this is a very easy equation to do. Let's take this scenario, for instance, the current scenario, and I measure the gap between the daily pivot and the weekly pivot, which is currently 87 pips. Now, I then ask myself,
sorry, mate, he's actually talking about an extension to Article 50.
Ah, to the Brexit.
Yes.
Right.
So that's a really good question, actually. I think it's a really good question. So an extension. Now, the thing is about extending Article 50. If Article 50 is extended, and you only have to really recognize whose nose is put out of joint when this sort of stuff is announced. Now, because the Eurosceptics' nose is put out of joint, that suggests that Brexit is either softer or less likely to happen. So it just puts the pound on hold more than anything else. But there may be some confidence that, it's still going to be conjecture, but there may be some confidence back in the UK economy that Brexit won't happen. So the likelihood is that if there's an extension to Article 50, we will probably more likely see the pound strengthen. It's unlikely that it will weaken, but it could just go sideways. So the two highest probabilities are sideways price action, with maybe some of the data fundamentals actually coming more into play, or even a little bit of strength into the pound, because, as I say, this doesn't really help the Eurosceptics out. You know, if there's no clear date for the UK to break from the EU, then that effectively means that we remain within the EU, and we potentially continue to get entangled in the EU, because there are European elections also happening in June. And now that's a very, very difficult scenario for the UK, because firstly, it means that they're going to have to put MEPs forward to elect new MEPs, you know, inside the council. But secondly, the question then becomes, do we put up our own, you know, do we then sort of like put forward some MEPs, because by all intents and purposes, we are still there, with the risk of those MEPs having to be pulled out of important positions because we then exit the EU. So it's a very, very scruffy position to be in for the EU and the and the UK. But my personal stance on this is that this is all about business confidence. And business confidence comes down to can they trade, and at least it means that we will be able to trade in the same way for the next period. Now, the other question that you have to ask with this kind of thing is, how long is that extension going to be? Because if it's a 2-year extension, I think that pretty much puts the pound in a pretty solid rally. If it's
I'm
a
going to
few
find
months,
something else to do in the evening, mate, if that's the case.
yeah, well, yeah, well, I mean, we'll certainly be probably able to trade the pound to the upside if there's a long extension. If we're looking like 2 years or above, then we're looking for the pound to rally, because at least that puts some confidence back in business that they can plan for at least 2 years. If that extension is 5 years, then all bets are off, and I would suggest that we're probably looking, by all intents and purposes, that we are remaining in the EU. So look out for the little bits of detail. When it comes down to it, what does the extension mean? How long is the extension going to be? And what are the what's it subject to? What the little bits of detail that means that extension will be allowed, because it might be that the extension is just so we can get through the backstop, and we have a couple of months to negotiate that, which really could put things on hold again, and maybe a more likely scenario would be a sideways movement in the pound. So I think it's going to be kind of nuanced, but certainly on the face of it, an extension will probably be good for the pound.
Sorry, what was the questioner's name, Ash?
Christo.
Christo, thank you, mate, for the question. Much appreciated. My answer is no bloody idea, mate. Ash is all over it, and I don't give a toss. So, until it actually happens, to be fair. And the little gaps that we get in between announcements are great. You can kind of trade them, okay, but it's just giving me the absolute shits, to be fair.
Yeah, well, the truth is, actually, the dates that you want to look out for is, when are the votes coming in? When's the next vote in Parliament? And we haven't really got one that's been booked in yet. I think they're talking about sometime around the end of February, but that might be taken off the table. So if there's a vote in Parliament, that becomes important, because that's when things are effectively agreed and potentially ratified, even though they haven't been for the last few sessions. But look at when the votes happen, because that's when things move. All this kind of, like, I heard this guy speaking in a bar talk, is just really newspapers filling column inches. They don't have too much more to talk about with Brexit, because there's no meat on the bones. So they're just trying to find something to sell their papers, and
yes,
that as a headline.
They get paid to fill the paper, not necessarily
Yeah.
anything that means anything.
Exactly, and I'd say that I wanted to give you a little Brexit report, because it seems to be the news of the day, and I'm on top of that stuff. But actually, none of it really meant anything. Yes, we can be prepared if there's an extension for some upside with the pound, but by tomorrow we're probably crashing out with no deal. So it's one of those that it's at the minute it's changing as regularly as you change your socks. So I don't think we can.
Awesome.
If only, if only it would change that slowly. Yeah. So that's what we're after.
Was there another question?
No, it was just Ben really commenting on the fact that is she the Iron Lady? Is Theresa May the Iron Lady? And she isn't. Do you know what, mate? We're really going to have to get we're really going to have to get some webcams on our show, I think, because
oh my god, and I have to
yeah,
put everything away. I have to put the wine away. I have to put the wine.
You will have to change your socks more than once a month.
We'll have to change the socks. Yeah. No, not going there. I could put up a little cardboard cutout.
Oh, that'll do.
That'll do.
Yeah, that'll do. We could have a little, maybe just a little still, our favourite picture of ourselves or something.
Although this means the app is not moving, he's actually there.
But it might have to be put up, because the screen flashes back and forth, and I've got no way of controlling it. And at least if we're on the webcam, it shows that we're talking. So
yeah, to be absolutely honest, guys, we're trying to find another platform, another way to bring this to you, because it is so frustrating from a controlling point of view. because we can't see what's going on. We can't really control anything. We can't draw on the screen. There's all sorts of handicaps here. And if we can find a better way to do it, and hey, if you've got any suggestions, please let us know.
Yeah, we were. You're welcome, Christo. You're more than welcome, mate. We are exploring some other bits and pieces, and there are some ideas, but none of them are proving to be ideal right now. So we are stuck with this. It's a shame. I think YouTube is a great way to communicate, but it's a terrible editing software, and you can see the screen continuously flashing as Jeff and I sniff or cough. It flashes between the two screens, so it's incredibly frustrating for that, and it must be for you guys too. So we will try and bring you something better. In fact, we will bring you something better, but we're still exploring the best way to do that. And as Jeff says, any suggestions will be greatly received. Anyway, mate, it is 9 o'clock. I can't do anything till 9:30 because that's when CPI is released. And same deal with you guys. If you're trading the pound, then you are probably looking at not trading this before that 9:30 announcement. It certainly looks right now that we have a potential for some upside, but get your lines drawn on your charts because it looks like it needs to break through this this monthly pivot, and if it breaks through that monthly pivot, we could be getting some significant upside. But this CPI data could just fluctuate this between daily pivot and a monthly pivot. I'm not sure. I wouldn't like to make a guess on this. I've done very little technical analysis on the pound today. But it looks
just very quickly before this potential trade triggers, I best show.
Yep.
I'm not going to take it, guys. Yes, I've got a bullish decisive bar, but you can see where my minimum price needs to be, and it needs to be on that line. Hasn't done it. Look, it's missed by a bee's dick, to be fair, but it hasn't got there, and I really want it to go there. So at the risk of missing this short, I'm going to wait on the hourly chart, which can still give it to me. So I still want to see the break, and I still want to see the retest. It'll look exactly like that on the hourly chart, except we'll have a test of this white line, which is 68.28. Okay. If you want to get in now, trade it very small, because this is a high risk trade now. And the reason it's a high risk trade is I think that level there will be retested. I don't know when. I just think it will be retested. Okay. So leave that one in your court. I'm not trading this until I get exactly what I'm looking for. So hanging in there. I don't think there's anything else, mates. That one's as it was. Euro is as it was. Gee, I'll be pissed off if this goes long now and I didn't take that candle. And not that I wanted to take that candle, but when I look back and if price is up here, I'll be thinking, oh, why didn't I take that candle? There's good reason why I'm not taking that candle, guys. So I won't be that peed off. Nothing Aussie yen, nothing pound yen. That continues to look interesting to me. Every time I see that, I think there's got to be a trade here, but I cannot find it. Maybe if I fiddle with this just a little bit longer, that'll be the high there. No, I can't find it. It's the same as what's the one I'm looking for? Euro Aussie. Not Euro Aussie. What am I looking to trade? Kiwi. Same thing. So I'm looking for that. I'm looking for a price back underneath and retest. I've got a mind like a sieve, haven't I? What cross am I on? Oh, for God's sake. That one, Euro yen. So same thing, looking for a price to get back under, retest, then trade it down to the pivot. So I think it's good targets there. So no entry, guys, at this point, but keep your eye on the Kiwi, keep your eye on Euro yen.
Great stuff, mate. Okay, that's good stuff. And for me, as I say, I'm waiting for 9:30 for that announcement. CPI. It's important data, so don't discard it. I wouldn't trade the pound before that data is released and passed. Obviously, wait for your setups as normal. But have a great day, guys. Don't really have a lot to do. I really want to get back to some trading. Not managed to take a trade this week. Just closed one out from last week, and that's been it for me. So I am keen, but could be looking
only
at tomorrow.
taken the one, and fortunately that was a good one yesterday on the Euro long. See if we can do it again.
Good stuff. Yeah, good stuff, mate. Okay, so not too bad a week so far. Right, thanks for joining us, guys. Really appreciate it, and all the questions appreciate. Really good that you guys are getting involved. We want to really make this a conversation, and it's a lot better for us. You are very welcome, Ben. Very welcome, Christo. And for the rest of you listening, I hope you have a great afternoon. We'll be back same trade time, same trade channel tomorrow. Enjoy your day, guys.
Take care, guys. Bye for now.